Life and Times of Pink Floyd. The band have just released an 8-CD box set of their best work, so it's a good time to take a look at the band who were at the forefront of psychedelic rock. They've been around since the end of the 60s and were at the forefront of musical experimentation, and live they were the first to use films as well as light shows. Hasn't always been roses though. Founding member Syd Barrett was one child of the 60s whose psychiatric makeup didn't quite fit with the excesses of the time, and in the late 80s major arguments with Roger Waters meant that he left the band. But of course their music has soared above all this. With an explosion of psychedelia, Pink Floyd was born in 1967. At the forefront of experimentation, the band were not your average rock and roll band. By 1968, David Gilmour had joined, but Syd Barrett was out, a casualty of the times.
I'd seen Syd the year before, well, during that year in 1967, particularly during when they were making See Emily Play. I went along to that recording session and the change was sort of devastating. And Syd, he was a different person to the one I'd known very well, so it was kind of tragic.
As the 60s turned into the 70s, a band threw out the musical rulebook. The album Medal featured one track that lasted a whole side and was really a forerunner of the record that would end up on the American charts for over 700 weeks. Creatively and financially, Dark Side of the Moon was a turning point for the band.
We knew it was going to do better than anything that we'd previously done, because it was obvious. Particularly when we saw it all put together at the end with the cover and the whole thing, we knew that it was going to do a lot better than anything previously, but I, for one, didn't quite foresee the quantum leap that was made in popularity.
In hindsight, Dark Side of the Moon also heralded the conflicts that would lead Rick Wright to leave the band in 1981 and Roger Waters to go his own way in 1985.
We had fulfilled our function. We stayed together for a long time after that, but there was never really any kind of, nice feeling of a group of people working together after that point. There were terrible kind of arguments and disagreements all the way through Wish You Were Here and Animals and The Wall and The Final Cut.
It was a very difficult period. You've sort of achieved all your childhood's rock and roll dreams. When you've reached that sort of pinnacle of Dark Side of the Moon, you have to really ask yourself what you're still in it for. And it was a tough time, but I think in the end I came to the conclusion that I was in it for the music more than for anything else. A conclusion which I haven't really changed.
Wish You Were Here arrived in 1975 as a follow-up to Dark Side of the Moon and is now regarded as one of Floyd's finest moments.
I like the balance of music to words on Wish You Were Here a lot. I think we took a step back towards Medal, if you like, and had a better balance of music to lyrics. And I think it was better, for me, better balanced than Dark Side of the Moon.
All in all, it's just another brick in the wall.
It was 1979's The Wall that provided the band with their first #1 UK single. The double album centred on Waters' hatred of war.
Central to all my work is whatever the feelings are that come up within me, and the songs that I write, by and large, seem to be always about the same things, you know.
In 1987, Rick Wright rejoined the band and worked on Momentary Lapse of Reason, the first album not to feature Roger Waters. He was solo and wanted nothing to do with Pink Floyd and fought for the name to be laid to rest.
I get Genesis thrown in my face all the time. Well, Peter Gabriel left and they're still called Genesis, and that was, oh, yeah, okay, fine. People do what they do. I left and there's a band there still called Pink Floyd. People must make of it what they will. It's none of my business anymore, Gilmour and Mason own the name Pink Floyd. That's it, finish. It's nothing to do with me.
In that separation, we lost something and we gained something. Certainly, you always have some regrets about losing a talented person, don't you?
Taking a look at the music of Pink Floyd, and in commercial terms at least, one of their best albums was Dark Side of the Moon, and it's one that still sells in large quantities years on.
Well, we were trying to find new things, new sounds, new ways of doing things. The actual music itself, I mean, if you annotate the music or have that looked at, it wasn't terribly experimental, but the sounds that we put onto it, I suppose you could call experimental. We still are looking forward to finding new ways of doing things.
Taking a look at the music of Pink Floyd. We talked earlier about Dark Side of the Moon, of course a hugely successful album, but the album was so successful for Pink Floyd, in fact, that it presented a whole new set of problems for the band and how to successfully follow it up. They did with the album Wish You Were Here Too. This is a wee postcard from the album, and that's now considered one of the band's most successful albums.
I remember bitching on myself at the time after Dark Side of the Moon about how I thought that musically some of the vehicles within it are a little weak, which is, I don't know, sort of seems like a daft thing to say about an album that's done that well, really. But I did feel at the time, I still think that, you know, the balance of moving back towards sort of more instrumental passages and some of those spacier things was a good thing to do for on the Wish You Were Here album. I really like it a lot.
Well, you may in fact be wondering why I'm standing here to present tonight's MTV Rock Block. Well, behind me you can see the Battersea Power Station, which was in fact the building used on the cover of Pink Floyd's album Animals. And suspended between the chimneys was a huge inflatable pig, which actually on the shoot day got away and caused major problems for Heathrow Airport traffic control here in London.
Well, yeah, I really like it. It was sort of, I think, slightly influenced by the punk era, if you like. I don't know if you could call it the Pink Floyd punk album, but it's certainly a bit more aggressive than some of the other ones we'd previously done. And as you say, it was, two of the pieces on it were pieces that we'd been working on when we were starting the Wish You Were Here album, and had left on one side till later. But yeah, good album for me. I like it a lot.
For pigs on the wing.
Well, the Floyd had been going for 5 years before Dark Side of the Moon was released, and all the work in the 60s was done with founding member Syd Barrett. But in the early 70s, with Dave Gilmour as a firm member of the band, they released the album Medal, one side of which was taken up with the now classic Echoes.
I mean, that's not the first time we'd done that. I mean, there was the same sort of thing we've been working up towards for the past 3 albums. I mean, there's on Sauce Full of Secrets, there's half of one side is a track. On the Ummagumma album, there's 4 half-side pieces, over 10 minutes long. Atom Heart Mother has a whole side with the track Atom Heart Mother on it, with orchestra, brass and choir and stuff on it, rather, which is kind of experimental. I think that all those things came together on Medal, which was done as a band without extra brass and other stuff like that. And it really came together, so I don't think that we thought we were being outrageously experimental by putting that on a whole side of that album. I mean, we really thought that was brilliant when we made it. Yeah. That whole side was really stuck together as a great piece. But as you say, it was the way forward for what continued on Dark Side of the Moon and became a whole album on Dark Side of the Moon.
Block Block Pink Floyd competition, where you get a chance to win this amazing Pink Floyd box set. It's known as the Shine On box set, and it's well worth sitting in anybody's record collection. All you have to do to get your greedy little hands on this is identify these 3 album covers found on the box set. Send your answers to MTV Rock Block Pink Floyd competition, PO Box 1384, London NW10HW, and that's in England. And we'll draw all the winners next year, and just for now, another look at the album covers that you need to identify. So good luck with the competition. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering about Roger Waters. Well, he left the band in 1985, and since then he's been far from idle. In fact, in 1990 he organised The Wall, which happened in Berlin. That was a major show. And this year he released a solo album, Amused to Death, which features guitar work by Jeff Beck.
I don't mind about The Wall. That's one of the things I like to watch.
Roger Waters is back with Amused to Death, an album of intense emotion.
The record, as you know, is about our relationship with television, and I see it very much as a two-edged sword. It's a very, very powerful medium, as we all know, and it can either, it can destroy us or save us. I see it as powerful a medium as that, really.
The recurring Waters theme of war is again top of the agenda here, as is that, dare we say it, Pink Floyd classic sound.
What brought us together was, a desire to be pop stars. And after Dark Side of the Moon, we had fulfilled our function. We stayed together for a long time after that, but there was never really any kind of nice feeling of a group of people working together. People do what they do. I left, and there's a band there still called Pink Floyd. People must make of it what they will. It's none of my business anymore, Gilmour and Mason own the name Pink Floyd. That's it, finish. It's nothing to do with me. I have no control over it. I have no control over the back catalogue. I have nothing to do with any of it. I'm out of it, okay? And it happened several years ago, and I was jolly angry and gloomy about it at the time, and I'm now over it, and I'm getting on with my own work, and let's talk about something else.
Don't look so surprised. It's only Dugmore.
Waters is, however, aware that, in commercial terms at least, the mantle Pink Floyd means automatic sales.
If it said Pink Floyd on it, I'd sell 10 million albums. And because it says Roger Waters on it, I've no idea what I may sell. But it is extraordinary how difficult it is to cross that line, for people to understand who I am and what my work is and what it was in the past.
Waters now is focused and even happy, though not at ease with the media.
We can see, when we watch our MTV, we can see the lie that all that is. It's there in front of us. And successive generations of people who like to buy records or to listen to music, at least a percentage of them will be unable to not understand the dilemma, the dichotomy that exists within the conflicting messages that we get from it.
We couldn't do a show on Pink Floyd without mentioning The Wall, a concept album to end all concept albums. It tells the story of Pink from his disturbed childhood right through to his rather disturbed adulthood. And it's not a fairy tale, but it's a good enough story to have been made into a film by Alan Parker. And when it was a live show, it broke barriers for its presentation.
It's Roger's concept entirely. I wasn't involved in the concept at all. I was very much involved in turning a concept into a great album as a producer music writer on 3 tracks, and general overall help in production and arrangement. We thought it was a commercial. We definitely thought it was a very commercial proposition. We wanted to sell lots of records of it, and lots and lots of stuff was done as we progressed through it to make it more commercial and to make it more acceptable, if you like, which is just another way of saying making it turn us on more, or for me personally, than it did in its initial stages, in its initial demo form. It was originally one verse of a little. That theme is taken up 3 times, I think, on the record, that basic theme from that track. And this was just a one-verse theme to get you from this place to this place. And myself and Roger sang on it, and it was fine, sounded good. And then we had the idea of putting kids on it. And when we got the tape back, because we had to send, we were in Los Angeles doing the album, we sent a tape off with a list of instructions of what to do and how to do it to our engineer at Britannia Row in London. And when we got the tape back and listened to it with our voices up, it was really good. And when we took our voices out and it's just the kids on their own, it sounded absolutely brilliant. So we mixed it twice, once with mine and Roger's voice, once with the kids' voices, and then edited the 2 together. Yeah, and it started sounding like it was definitely hit single sort of material.
Well, sadly, that's all we've got time for on tonight's Rock Block. We've been featuring the music of Pink Floyd, but I will be back with Rock Block next week, so hopefully I'll see you then. In the meantime, be careful with that axe, Eugene.